We are only a few short days away from the 3.25 start, and in anticipation of that, I want to talk about some things that people probably missed in the patch notes. There was several hours of video to go over and over 30,000 words in the patch notes. So after spending a few days combing over them, I have a couple of important things that I think that we should talk about. Some are big, some are small, and number 7 will shock you. No, I'm just kidding, but it will. Number 1, this is a simple one. The life mastery that used to provide 50 life now provides 30 life. In my opinion, this is almost never worth taking on any build, particularly this league with the life numbers getting buffed on every rare piece of gear. Chests can roll into the 180s of life, and it's my understanding that we'll be getting about 30% more life on every single piece of gear. So 100 plus on boots and gloves and helmet really makes 30 life seem like it's not really worth it. In almost every case, grabbing one of those extra hanging life nodes after a notable is going to be worth far more than 30 life. In my opinion, it's an auto skip and should be taken out of every single build guide. Number 2, the currency exchange. I don't think people missed that there's a currency exchange. I think people might not realize the gravity and size of the currency exchange. It looked like the minimum trade was going to cost 200 gold, which is a very small amount considering some of the characters we saw had over 5 million gold. Are you pushing through your Atlas and need a couple more Val Orbs? Well, instead of whispering 17 people to try to buy 5 of them, you can now just click one time. Need a few Orbs of Horizon in order to reroll a map to get that last tier 16 done? A few clicks away. Want to grab an Exalt to slam that jewel? A few seconds and it's yours. But it's not just the currency. This is actually a stackable item exchange. This includes catalysts, omens, div cards, scarabs. It's going to be easier than ever to get any of the materials that you need. One interesting use case of something like this is instead of buying a 1C helmet, you could buy those div cards, 25 at a time, and have a bunch of those helmets that you want to corrupt. Need to grab just a couple of essences to try to get a usable item. Once you're in maps, you can just grab them off the market. Now, it seems to be the case that these items will cost more gold to trade in large bulk, so I imagine that there still will be a huge market for bulk trading outside of this feature and will actually be more useful for small amounts of items. It doesn't cost any gold to do a trade with someone, so if you're trying to buy 300 scarabs at a time, you're probably not going to use this market for it. But that will all depend on the value of gold. We have no idea how much we're going to be able to acquire, the best way to farm it, or how much these high-end trades can cost. Also, gold does have a market outside of just trading. It's the primary use for recombinating. It looked like it was 50,000 in the one recombinator that we saw on the trailer, which is a substantial amount. There are tons of use cases for this exchange, and I'm super excited to get in and try it out. Thing number 3, melee is going to feel slower. A lot of people are very excited about melee this league, and they should be. The damage numbers look phenomenal on a ton of skills with sweeping buffs across the board, but I worry that speed is going to ultimately make people have a bad time with melee on league start. Now, in the endgame, when you have currency, you can buy speed. You can get Tailwind Boots, Elusive, Mage Blood, Headhunter. There's lots of ways to get fast in the endgame. But for the first couple of days, speed is at a premium. I believe melee actually got slower with all of these buffs. One of the things that most melee builds used was Rage and Berserk. Rage has been reworked, and so has Berserk, to be a more damage multiplier for attack damage. And in the process, it has lost the increased speed from Rage and more movement speed from Berserk. These two things combined are a massive loss for the left side of the tree. I do worry that folks will be seriously underwhelmed by how it feels to play melee in the first couple of days of 3.25. Movement speed has a lot of value other than just going fast. It is a defensive mechanism. If you get out of the way of something, it doesn't hit you. And when you're very slow, things hit you, particularly when you have to be in melee range. So, not saying don't play melee, but just something to keep in mind. Number 4 was just one line of text in 30,000 words, but is a massive, massive change. Pinnacle bosses and guardians can now be slowed up to 50%. This includes all sources of stacked slowing, such as temp chains, maim, and chill, but it also buffs freeze. You can freeze Pinnacle bosses. They don't stop moving, but they do have the ailment freeze on them. And before, it would slow them by 30%. Now it slows them by 50%. That is a massive increase and is going to make Pinnacle bosses much, much less dangerous. The Hoarfrost mechanic on the new Warden is going to be incredibly valuable to make builds that wouldn't otherwise be able to freeze these bosses, now freeze them consistently. Expect to see a lot of Heat Shiver Warden builds in 3.25. Number 5 is the Paranda's Pact. This item is back with a new name. When completing rituals, you'll have a chance to find the King in the Mist as a fragment that you can then put into your map device and fight him. He can drop the Light of Meaning jewel, which as far as we know is identical to the Paranda's pack that we got from last league. These were incredibly powerful and make a great addition to almost any build. The jewel also looks different now. It has the visual of the That Which Was Taken jewel, which is not in the game. Number 6 is a massive change that I have not seen talked about enough: map scrying. When you run into the Nameless Seer in a map, he will offer you a selection of likely garbage items, but he will also give you the ability to scry a map. Scrying a map means that you will take the div cards on that map and swap them with div cards that appear on a different map. So we know that Defiled Cathedral has Apothecary. You can now farm that on the beach, or really any other map that you want. You want to farm Unrequited Love cards for Mirror Shards on Moon Temple? Go ahead. You want to farm the Doctor in Vol Temple? Don't, but you can. You can select a map that works best for your build and strategy. Plenty of maps have bad div cards but good layouts, and now you can mix and match what works best for you. Number 7 is the one that I might be the most excited about, and that is Ventor's Gamble. This used to be a magic find item. With quantity removed, thank you Mark, the ring seemed to have lost a bit of its identity. However, they replaced the quantity line with a line that says up to 15% increased mana reservation efficiency. 15% is a massive amount. It's more than you can get from essences on chest or helmet. It's more than you can get from the Eldritch Implicit on a helmet, and is more than you can get from the Mana Mastery, for example. A well-rolled Ventor's is going to be one of the best items in the game because it still has life, it has up to 150 resistances, and if you like, rarity rolls. But if you just don't care about the rarity rolls, you're only competing for life, res, and mana reservation efficiency, you might be able to get a decent one for cheap. Maybe you just need an extra 4% mana reservation efficiency and your ring slot is open, you can get a bunch of res and life on there and fix that problem. I think a lot of builds are going to be looking for at least one Ventor's in the endgame, as this ring provides a ton of value for the ring slot. All right, so those are my 7 things. There's probably more. We'll be talking about those over on my stream, twitch.tv/AER0__. I'm live every single day. Right now, we are preparing for League Start. If you like this kind of content, like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you all. Thank you for watching. And as always, take care.